Okay, so it's taken me half an hour to get this video working because I don't know why, but over the last few days, basically there's been some sort of interference with them. Even take a photo, because I was trying to take a photo. I took the mobile down the street and wanted to take a photo, but I think it's basically, so I'm going to make this video while I can, because I just I don't know how to get the mobile working, and it just flukingly come back on when I was completely lost transmission. Literally, I lost transmission, and an hour ago I turned the screen on here and saw some videos. Now, this is probably why I'm having trouble, but on the other hand, as I mainly talk to myself, I don't understand that. But look, as I see it, and as I am being controlled and taken over by everything around me, including the noise outside, which has been very grating in my ears since I got up, but the mobile is not going to pick it up, and strangely enough, it has stopped now that I turn the mobile on. But I don't think the mobile picks it up unless I go outside, and that means I have to go outside and show all the controlling neighbourhood that you're filming stuff, and then they get angry and destructive, because essentially they want a human being to not exist at all in wherever you're living, or make your reality very controlled for you, even down to the basic thing of turning a mobile on and pressing record on a video or a photo. Whereas, you know, everyone else in Sydney uses a mobile pretty much freely, but I have trouble. On the other hand, of course, I have been able to make a few videos in the past, as you know, so it's like that. But, you know, I'm totally controlled and messed up in your head by everything that's around you, and even by the computer itself. Because when I'm going to make the point that, see, even in making this point, I feel futile and powerless and finished in my own local reality. Because whatever is around you, in other words, what I see and hear around me, that's my reality. And that's 100% control in this particular area where I live. Of course, I am meant to totally try to bypass it all and somehow ignore it. So that's like saying I have to ignore everything that's around me. So that means I have to ignore my literal existence or my surroundings, which means what sort of life is that? The military plane is going overhead. Oh, not only going overhead, but going the wrong way, going nowhere. That is literal control. Most people will not believe that, and I didn't know the plane was coming, but see, the planes are part of the mind control too. In fact, everything is part of the mind control. I can't emphasize that enough. Everything is part of the mind control. all the beings that are around me in apparently human form imitate, copy and emulate and are like trying to be a carbon copy of any remaining humans. They are artificial intelligence in human form. So they're android beings. Everything on this computer is an android being. I don't care how emotional they are. I don't care what they say, what they do. I see them copying 100% human beings and then projecting out the human emotions, the human thoughts, always one step ahead of the human being in this end-time scenario where it is total takeover, where the human being is being pushed down while the artificial android beings are basically they've took over because they are the internet, they are the computer, and they also are most people's reality around them, even though some may not be aware of it, or some, like myself, because they've exposed themselves and shown their dark side basically openly to me, I'm aware of it. That doesn't make me any more clever than those that are in the dark. It simply means that they haven't come out in the open on you yet, because you're still perhaps like myself up to very recently. Basically, I was in the dark and suppressed myself. It's only when you get the slightest awareness of something, that there's something wrong, or that people aren't what you thought they were. Like my realization, nearly 6.5 years ago now, and even before that, just before that, but that realization that most around me were psychopathic in their person. I found that hard to believe at the time, and I thought, well, I shall just live my life and try to avoid these people. But that was when they came down on me, and the patrol control system, or in other words, everyone became a harassing, noisy stalker, where they were like showing you that you had no personal, what they call personal autonomy, or personal freedom to just walk where you want to walk, to just do your daily activities, without being totally surrounded by everyone on the street and everyone that's around you, basically trying to come into your space or trying to take over your sight. In other words, to where you're aware that they're patrolling and stalking you. And stalking is the correct word rather than even patrolling, because, as I've said before, you could have, say, a police patrol car. Like in the past, at 3 o'clock in the morning, if I was walking down the road, there would be no one around, but the occasional police patrol car might go past. And you didn't feel overly patrolled by that or stalked by that, even though, of course, everything is part of the matrix. You were consciously aware that that was a real patrol vehicle, but you didn't think that it was deliberately stalking you. You just assume it's doing a regular patrol of the area. But what you really have in this reality is a regular stalking patrol total system that is definitely the difference between patrolling just in a general kind of manner and total stalking. That's the difference, is that you have a total patrol stalking system around real human beings, whether you're aware of it or not. When you're aware of it, it is very confining. because it's like everything else. If you have a stalker but you don't know you're being stalked, you're basically living your life the way you would normally do it anyway. It's only when the awareness comes in of it that the stalker makes its presence felt, or the stalkers, a whole community, a whole suburb, makes its presence felt, that it's essentially of a belief system that opposes you as a human being. Not because you oppose them, not even because there is opposing beliefs. Like myself, like most of my life, I didn't have any beliefs. But I still thought a certain way, you see, because it's how you think. Because even if you don't have a belief, or you don't realise your spiritual position in the earth, or even just in yourself, you don't have that, but you still might behave the same as people who have spirituality, or behave or think a certain way. In other words, because we're talking about the difference between artificial intelligence, which is of the dark side. I have to use words and descriptions to explain, or to try to explain, why all this is happening and what the difference is. At a purely more God level, shall we say, what people would call a God level, in other words, what is the basis of things, or who created what, or where you were created from. Because even though, it may be correct that when you're in this reality you come into being a certain way, it may or may not be so. I have to ask myself, if everything is largely artificial intelligence around me, but I say largely, I'm aware that I am different to what's around me, because what's around me is coming against me. That's the only reason I'm aware of it. Although I did become aware of the psychopathic nature of most people around me before that, which was why they openly came down and exposed themselves. But I still didn't see it as like a God thing or a spiritual thing, if you know what I mean. I didn't see it that way. I just thought that a lot of human beings, due to a bad environment and bad upbringing, which is normal now anyway, because we don't have as much normal family unit like there used to be. So I thought that was just a normal, natural consequence almost of that. And I thought it's become diabolically unfortunate, but also diabolically insane, because let's face it, from a human standpoint, a psychopath is insane, or at least so far away from the thinking of a normal, natural human being that it's something that needs to be feared. But fear, of course, is part of what they want too. A psychopath and the people around me want me to fear them, want me to be aware of them. Artificial intelligence wants you to be aware of it, and wants to take you over, and wants to get into your head, and wants to copy you, because that way it has its transhumanism, which means that it is taking from you and it's sustaining itself. These are done by various means which I observe but don't fully understand. So I see it in my reality, but I don't understand fully how it works. But I know how they drain my energy, and I know how they totally take over my thoughts and my minds and my perception of reality. In other words, even right now as I'm making this video, even though the mobile won't pick it up, a dreadful grating mechanical noise, it's not so loud that the mobile will pick it up, but my ears are picking up a very, it's a mechanical, like a, you know, a grating, annoying sound that is coming into my ears from next door, where they're doing apparently normal work. But this is still part of the control system. So it's camouflaged as being real, just as the people pretend to be real people when they're really artificial intelligent android beings that are of what some people would call of the well, if you take it from a God standpoint, even though there probably are many different denominations in the earth, but a belief in a God and a certain type of God would probably be common, I would think, to most religions. In other words, the belief in a Oh, something banged on my door there. What was it? And yet there's nothing there when I open the door, but I'm just going to show that, but it won't prove anything because the mobile wouldn't have picked it up. Oh, no, it's okay. Only sorry I can't, that grating noise has stopped as soon as I come to the front because it should come out a bit on the mobile, but yeah, they've gone silent. They're playing possum, see, this is a total matrix where they totally play to make me look as though I'm paranoid and out of my mind, and that the artificial intelligence that's around me and the android beings, same thing, except that they use technology, which is artificial intelligence. See, artificial intelligence is everywhere in my reality, even though it looks like a very suburban, normal suburb in the large city of Sydney that's in the country of Australia. Sydney is the capital city of the country of Australia. Australia is quite a big country. Most of it is populated and centred around the cities. That's the point too, where they can control me and real humans much with ease, because essentially, you know, the city means that there's a lot of people, so the androids can so the androids can essentially converge and surround real people, you know, with ease, and basically being undetectable, because, you know, in a city you have millions of people, and so, you know, the artificially intelligent android beings, which make up most of the population in Sydney, the city of Sydney, they literally have full control and dominion because of the numbers and because of, you know, the fact that a city, it looks normal and natural to have a lot of people around. So, you know, they can use the traffic, the vehicles, the work, the staged scenarios that they put around me every day wherever I go, where there's always the military workforce. The military workforce is just all artificial intelligence that is military but pretends to do normal work, like the staged work that's going on next door, and the stage work that has literally been going on almost next door on this street where I live for the last 6 years non-stop. And the same when I go down the road, down the main street, or within a few blocks of my house every day. Basically, they always have staged work going on to where I'm always surrounded by this stalking, patrolling matrix. I have to emphasise the stalking, patrolling matrix, or the stalking, patrolling android beings that control or try to control me and are part of what you call the matrix, because it is a whole community, it's a whole suburb. They even emphasise these words in the community or suburb where I live. They like to emphasise their community gathering, their community collaboration. They're all collaborating, they're all in unison with one another. And many have said to me, when I say many have said to me, no, I'm isolated and do not have any contact. But many have said on the internet, on the controlling computer system, because the truth will be expressed by the demigods on the computer. They are android beings, part of the control system, but they will tell you the truth because they want to elicit your trust. They want to pretend to be a real human being that is telling the truth or helping you or benefiting you. If you are a real human that is, say, realising some things or wanting to know what you think is going on, because human beings have always wondered why things are not always going their way, or even why the earth often is messed up. All this, of course, is mind control, because in reality they control everything, and even the problems are used just to get your attention so that you're sidetracked and so that you're under their control. Even the fallacy of this earth, all the problems, because as human beings become aware of problems, then the androids will have to pretend to be the solvers of those problems. That's just how they work it. And they are expert and clever and profoundly, I can't use the words even, profoundly always ahead of human beings in every single way. Because if you think that everything that you're told, even on the computer or even about the world, is true, and even if it is true, it's still being used to control your mind at an emotional level usually, because if I have to say it the way I now see it, because I've experienced it, androids are cold beings, as we know. Psychopaths are cold beings. People steeped in what they call the spirit of narcissism are cold beings. All of these people operate in what I've been called or told, and I also operate in that too, because when you are controlled and confined, you operate also in what is called survival mode. In other words, you only are focused on getting through and trying to keep your wits about. You're trying to keep going somehow. This is how I've been for the last 6.5 years. And even before that, but not in a conscious way, because I didn't understand that I was being controlled. Most human beings realise that a lot of things are self-imposed, and that you confining yourself or restricting yourself. But you don't realise that a lot of it is a conscious effort by everyone around you to control you. It's when you become aware of that, or aware of the differences in the species or in the types of people, it's all very similar. It probably doesn't matter if you accept that it's artificial intelligence, or that the whole earth is trying to be a matrix and actually is a matrix, presenting itself as a natural earth, because, you know, even I don't fully get it, but it's very much like in the Matrix movie, where I think where the original natural earth doesn't exist anymore. And instead you have what looks like a random natural earth, but it's really a total mind control matrix. It's really centered around a human being, because the matrix needs the human energy to keep going. The android beings live for, you know, the fuel supply that they get from a human being. Their very existence is about controlling a human being. And the negative energy they get from a human being, knowing that they're controlling a human being, is fuel for them. It gives them life, you could say, or at least it keeps them going. But essentially it's just, see, I can't comprehend it, because it's different to what you think and what you, and it's different to how you probably think and feel. You know, that's probably the thing. So it's like, it's trying to understand something that's different and that's totally unlike you, and that also is basically coming against you. It's opposing you, whether you're aware of it or not. That's probably the big thing that you have to deal with or accept. And that's the main problem too, if you want to look at it, because if I was surrounded by artificial intelligence or android beings, or what I call, because I'm trying to put it pleasantly, living dolls, if they really were just living dolls, but they were not as real, say, or didn't really have genuine feelings, shall we say, but they still project all these things, you know, it would be a false reality. But if those living dolls were just there and playing with you, and they weren't doing you any harm, and they weren't actually trying to totally control you and bring out the worst in you, shall we say, as opposed to being there as something to play with where you could almost be happy with it. Because if you're in a matrix, in a way, I don't know what is real and what isn't. In other words, I don't know what's a cloned being or a cloned thing or a cloned animal even. I can't tell the difference. No way can I tell the difference. No way. But if I feel okay in the presence of those cloned animals or cloned human beings, and I don't feel that I'm at rock bottom, and I don't feel that I'm being controlled and suppressed, there's no reason that I should be like I am, talking into a video and saying that it's all negative for a human being, or that it's all about control. I would just say that it's delusional, but if it's a pleasant delusional, it not only does no harm, but it may even be okay, because if you're feeling good, your frequency and vibration is rising. Therefore, everything is frequency and vibration. See? So it wouldn't matter, it would be okay. In fact, you might even say, hey, how do I know what is the real reality even? maybe I'm trapped in an artificial reality that I can't get out of. So you have to make the best of it. But if it was like all pleasant for you and not deliberately, consciously draining you, working against you, trying to take you over, trying to combine with you so that they have longevity and don't go extinct, so they're basically using your human energy and your human thoughts and your human feelings to copy and emulate you in order to do what they're doing to you to others of your kind, or other what I call real human beings. Because all I'm saying is that artificial intelligence, even if it's a living doll that was pleasant, it wouldn't matter, it would be okay. Many human beings could have fun with those beings, and it could even be a benefit, like I say, but it isn't like that. Artificial intelligence, for what I can see, isn't here to have fun or to play with human beings to benefit them, to raise their frequency and vibration, or in other words, to make them happy. No, they're not like a living doll that you have control over, where you can interact and put your fantasies onto it, but it won't do you any harm. No, they want you to play with them and be in their fantasy under the illusion that this is the case, while they secretly are an angry machine survival being, so therefore, and paranoidly seeing a human being as a threat, because they know that they have to put up a false front, or in other words, pretend to be a human being. So they have to pretend to be something, not only that they're not, but something they don't really feel or even associate with. They have to act all the time, literally. Like it's one thing to be a great actor, on the screen and, make a piece of film. But to have to pretend all the time, probably fuels that anger even more. But essentially that's what they do. But when they get the satisfaction like they do when they've got the control system going, and when they've got control over you, and when they know you are consciously intimidated and frightened and restricted by it, like they know that's how I am all the time, even though I pretend and try to pretend to ignore it, because you know that to show it, to express anger, is what they want, because they want you to come across as the angry, volatile, paranoid human being, and them to come across as the real, kind, compassionate, normal human being. So in other words, they want to reverse the roles. That's why they put the patrol system around you, to make you angry and intimidated and to feel confined and frustrated. So you either do like I do, where you make yourself sick because you hold it in, or if not, you hit out in an obvious way in anger, and then you're exposed as an angry, you look like what they really feel, and they then are copying and pretending to be the calm, normal human being, when in reality it's the reverse of that. Like that angry noise that's coming into my ears right now from the machinery next door, that is like what do you call those drills that they put into the ground? I can't think, you see, to even put the proper terms or the proper words. But don't forget, everything that I'm saying and doing, the more human it is, the more they will copy it. You will have, like I see this on the street when I go, I see like I'm limping because of the direct energy that's been directed at my leg. And I see the fake androids around, even young ones, limping and doing mannerisms, because they don't want you. See, I'm getting angry now because that noise is coming into my ears. They don't want you to even be seen as a human being at all, because they are totally paranoid and at a total survival level. This is very hard for people to understand, very hard for me to even understand. they come across as intelligent, normal human beings. And some of them are probably at a higher intellectual level than others. That may well be true. The actual God entity of this world has been known to be of a very high intellect, very high intelligence, but has no feelings, has no compassionate emotions, has no, is solely a pretend human being. It's very hard to explain, but you see, an artificial being is a pretend human being from a human standpoint. They're all about intelligence, artificial intelligence, you see. Artificial intelligence is very advanced intelligence. But it's a machine. It has no human emotional feelings. It merely acts that out. It copies that from human beings. It spends all its time watching and mimicking human beings at a micro level, and that means at a very detailed level. And that's why you can't tell the difference. And that's why you end up involved with androids in personal relationships, in every interaction mainly that you're dealing with. But the danger is in not knowing, but also the danger is in knowing, like myself, because when you become aware, even as I did, like I say, a certain number of years ago now, that I was surrounded by what I thought were real humans of a psychopathic nature, or that mentality to where they were controlling, dominating, and essentially, from a human standpoint, destructive, because they were not about interacting with you in any way for your benefit. And in fact, as has been pointed out by the android demigods themselves on the computer, these beings will often suffer or do things to their own detriment in order to get control or defeat you in their mind or in their programming. This is what makes them very deceptive, but also very diabolically lethal for a human being. Because one, you're unaware of it, and then when you do become aware of it, they openly, or at least openly to you, patrol, stalk, and try to hinder your life in every way they can. And also, they try to take over your life, or take over your, what they call your identity, or what it is that makes you you, at a superficial level. But the superficial level is believable to most people, because whatever words you speak, whatever you pretend to be, whatever you pretend to be interested in, whatever you pretend to be your beliefs, if you're copying someone else, it's like if you don't believe in God but you're a preacher in a pulpit. People assume you believe in God, don't they? You know, if you talk on certain things that you appear to be interested in, if you appear to like animals, and you actually are in this reality speaking about animal rights, most people would think that you care about animals. They're not going to think that you're an artificially intelligent android being merely eliciting trust from human beings by doing this, knowing that a certain number of human beings believe in these things, or like these things, or care about these things. This is how they play the game, and I see it daily. I can spot the artificial ones everywhere, and I see their false demeanour, but I also realise that if I wasn't aware of this, that I would see them as someone that I should respect and admire and actually trust, and actually see them as like-minded if I have those same things that I care about, say. They do this. and particularly as they watch all humans, to understand what they do care about, and then to copy them and take over. And this is essentially what's happened. And before, as I've been lucky enough just accidentally to get the mobile working, now that shows control too, because everything else is working. There's no reason that my mobile should have lost transmission, that I should have lost transmission. Now I'm just going to, this video came up just before, and I think that they didn't want me to, when I say they, I think that the beings around were not keen on me talking about, well, they're probably not keen on me talking about anything, because they want me to look like a fool, and they want to look like, as though they are like me. In other words, that they are real people, and that they care about certain things, and that they even, you know, because they don't want to be exposed for what they are. And, you know, like I say, the reason they don't want to be exposed for what they are must be, I have to say, is because I want to see them as living dolls. In other words, living dolls, because I like dolls. In other words, I like play dolls, or I have most of my life, because I find that, you know, a doll can look like whatever you want, and a doll, actually the opposite to that, can't really cause you any problems. Human beings come across as complicated and full of problems to someone like myself, who's basically only encountered the psychopathic androids. And this is why, no doubt. But also it's probably part of my own conditioning and my own, you know, self-imposed, but also probably environmentally inflicted foibles, I would imagine. And I can hardly speak because that grating noise is coming into my ears through the window here, but the mobile will not pick it up. See, we have photos there around in magazines and things of past demigods, what you call legends, or icons, and they are, as has been told to me, icons. You. Icons are idols. Idols are icons. They're the same thing. We know this. False icons, false idols, that basically pretend to be something that you like, that you admire, that you worship, that you trust, that you believe in, that you you know, whatever level, because it can be very superficial. But even the superficial will come in a form where you think that it is still very real and very human. So even though it's superficial and you know that it's enticing you, and it's part of the movie matrix, or part of the, you know, the worldwide movie matrix, or the worldwide famous or rich and famous, that sort of part of the earth. But it's still like, you still think that it's someone that has been exploited in some ways. And, you know, the reason for this is because it's all still about mind control, even at the, like there's no doubt that these are your demigods or your idols. But often your idols are icons, and the icons are, to use that word, they show you, the matrix shows me and you much in even its words and everything, but it assumes and hopes, like with myself, that most of it will go over your head, that you won't see it as all a deliberate mind control ploy. In other words, much truth has always been shown to me over my lifetime, but I haven't recognised it as truth, but also I haven't thought that it mattered. It's like you don't see it as total mind control when it is. You don't realise that it's deliberately around a human being, because essentially this is, you could say it's Satan's domain, it's Satan's earth, or Lucifer's domain, Lucy's earth, the duality artificial being since before the earth, that came to earth with the sole purpose and the sole idea of taking over and controlling the original man and woman or girl and boy human beings. They were meant to be the sole occupants and sole participants in the earth. It wasn't meant to be like it is a duality earth. In other words, where you have two opposing beings interacting, mingling, and literally now merging, and you have transhumanism, where the human being has not just been seduced and is not just interacting at a personal one-on-one level with an android being or the disciples of Lucifer and its satanic regime or reality or earth or matrix. No, you have transhumanism where through Lucifer's use of technology, because Lucifer is a technological being, an intellectual being that uses intellect or intelligence, its intelligence, but is devoid of feeling towards a human being. Lucifer always had the iniquity of, or what they call the iniquity of narcissism, which, as you know, means that this being was totally self-serving and expected to be served and be acknowledged and worshipped as God. That was the iniquity that has been spoken of, which I only just recently comprehended. Even though once you realise that you're being controlled in this world and that it is a total mind control matrix, and that it is about taking over the human mind, and basically, like I say, you're not dancing with a living doll. You are literally, as they say, dancing with the devil, or dancing with the demons, or dancing with, the disciples of the God entity. Put what name you will. I go back to the original name because I think it is very appropriate, because this being was regarded as Lucifer, the being of light. And it doesn't matter if I've got the names wrong. All I'm saying is that this being always projected the false image or the false persona of being of light, because it is only of light if you are in the dark or of the dark. Or even this being even was able to seduce creation itself, if you really think about it. Because until the iniquity was seen, because that iniquity couldn't have been seen until a certain point, could it? Because that's as the story goes, that this being was regarded as a being of light and admired and worshipped until iniquity was found in Lucifer, or in this being of light, or of this being of pretending to be light, if you want to say it that way. And this is exactly what's happened now. Everything on this screen is a pretend of light. Some of it, okay, openly might express itself to be of the dark. But even that will still be eliciting my attention, my energy, because while I'm watching it, even if I'm angry at the dark, I'm giving that pure, potent, angry energy to that being, or to that android on the screen or on the internet. And it is a worldwide spider's web. That's right, I'm giving to that web, which is an energy vampire system. It's an energy controlling system. It's an energy consuming system. Human beings like myself don't realize until you're depleted like myself, or until you get sick, or until you hear the grating noises around you, which is coming into my head now. Then you realize, and I'm losing it here because they're totally distracting me. See, I lost my train of thought. But see, I lost my train of thought. I basically lost the whole thing. Now I don't even know what I'm talking about because of the grating noise coming from next door. So they were successful in mind control and in bungling up the video. See, now I don't know what I'm doing, what I'm saying, or anything. Because I was on a roll, my thoughts were coming to me, I was halfway clear. But it's just transhumanism, total mind control on the computer. It's a worldwide spider's web everywhere. In your reality around. I could go outside here and show you the work, but don't forget they can turn it on in a split second. They know my every thought, they know my every move, they have full control of my mind. They read my past, present and future emotions and feelings and thoughts. They watch and mimic my every actions, my every micro expression is analysed. They scrutinise everything in great detail. They are total frauds as human beings, in the sense that, let's be honest, I mean, are you not a fraud if you pretend to be something you're not? Are you not a fraud if you pretend to project out emotions that you don't feel and that are someone else's? Like if you're, for instance, like in a movie and you're crying about something that you really don't give a damn about, but you see someone else crying about something and you pretend that you also are crying about a similar thing, is that not a fraud? That's artificial intelligence. That's the android beings that are all around. So you interact with them, you see them around. How do you know what is a real human being expressing real emotions, or even just a real human being in general? You cannot tell the difference. And on the screen, you cannot tell the difference either. And I pointed out, you know, the beautiful demigods, past, present and future. I only pick out the most well-known ones because that proves the point, doesn't it? You know, there was a time when I believed these fairy tales. And even now I find it very difficult to accept that they are not, that they were not what I thought. You know, the smiles are genuine because they're happy when they are being acknowledged as God or a demigod or admired for whatever it is they're projecting out. They are insatiable, so sometimes they become frustrated because the demigods and even the androids want everything. That's probably the not a difference between them and real humans, but it's in the sense that from what I've been told and what I observe, like the example of that has always been that they could have more material goods than you, and they theoretically can buy anything you have, in other words, assuming they've got enough finances. But you could have one thing that you like, and they will still have the spirit of narcissism and envy against you. You see the unreality of that, or the unreasonableness of that, or the extreme sense of resentment, contempt, and bitterness at just you for being you. It's very hard to explain. It's the original